Arav was once a great warrior, the leader of around 20 long-tailed macaques. But he fought and lost his troop to an invading male. Now, still nursing his wounds, he watches from afar. As the young, inexperienced new alpha allows his family to stay up well past their bedtime. The hill troop aren't used to city life. They grew up in the nearby forest, where there were no dazzling lights or noisy beasts disturbing their sleep. Lokai, who's only been in power for a few weeks, recently led the family here in search of a better life. He's out of his element and doesn't seem to understand how dangerous the urban world can be, especially at night. The Hill Troop live in Singapore, in the heart of Southeast Asia. Their usual home is in the middle of the island, in this part of the jungle. When Arav, their old, grizzled alpha, was in charge, they were content in the forest. They knew all the tricks to survive here. But when Lokai drove Arav away and took over, he led the hill troop out of the forest and into another family's home. This territory on the edge of the jungle is monkey paradise. Gardens overflow with food, and the forest is still close enough to shelter it. The street troop have held this prime real estate for years, and they don't share. Their alpha, Matnoor, will drive out any macaque that dares set foot in his precious home. But when Lokai arrived here yesterday, the street troop were nowhere to be seen. So, he decided it was safe for his family to stay. But the hill troop's first night in Matnoor's home has not gone well. Traffic kept them awake most of the night. They're confused and exhausted. Even worse, Lokai has just realized one of the youngest members of the troop is missing. This mom can't find her baby. He's not with the rest of the toddlers. Macaque family groups are very close. When one monkey is stressed like she is, the rest of the family try to help. Searching the road where the kids were last playing is the least they can do. Mom calls out. She hasn't lost hope. Lokai finally spots something. But it's not good news. The baby must have been struck by a car in the darkness. Macaques grieve just like people, and the sight of the body is very distressing for the family. Mom frantically calls for him to come to her. Unlike the rest of the troop, she doesn't seem to accept that he's passed away. She tries to encourage him off the busy road. Finally, in desperation, she carries her baby to a safer place. Now, she realizes he's dead. The Hill Troop have had a traumatic 24 hours in the Street Troop's home. Lokai hurries the family away from the streets. Arav, whose baby son just died, follows from a distance. Just under 2 kilometers away, the Street Troop are having a very different start to their morning. Unlike the Hill Troop, they're seasoned townies and know how to safely sleep in the city at night. The trick is to choose a tree away from busy roads and streetlights. Matnoor, their alpha of 8 years, led his family out of their usual territory a few days ago in search of some of his favorite fruit. Bananas. Matnoor hasn't laid eyes on these for months. As alpha, he always gets first dibs. He quickly stuffs down 3 in a row. There are still plenty left for all 34 members of his family. Matnoor occasionally leads his troop away from their home territory, always in pursuit of tasty food like this. There's just one problem, though. Bananas are full of sugar. This is the macaque equivalent of eating candy for breakfast. After years of indulging, Matnoor is showing signs that his unhealthy diet is catching up with him. He's a little overweight, and his teeth have seen better days. Every alpha has a weak spot, and junk food is Matnoor's. Sara, the lowest ranked female in the troop, is last to grab her share. She keeps her distance from the rest of the family, especially the females. Her baby, Max, is only 2 weeks old, and at this age, the other ladies in the troop might have a sinister interest in him. Higher-ranked females can sometimes kidnap a low-ranked baby and deliberately let it die. They'd rather their own children be the ones that survive and get all the resources. This high-status female could be plotting to grab Max. Sara moves as far away from her as possible. By mid-morning, it's too hot to be out and about, and the high-ranked females, the Sisterhood, gather under a roof to keep cool. Sara keeps her distance. She's not taking any risks with Max. At this age, he suckles every few hours. This is why it's so important that she doesn't let the Sisterhood steal him away. He wouldn't survive long without her milk. Matnoor and his 3 henchmen ignore the brewing tension amongst the females. They have their own politics to navigate. As adult males, the henchmen would prefer to be alphas, but they choose to live under Matnoor's rule. It's a comfortable life. Keeping them well-fed is one of the secrets behind Matnoor's unusually long reign. A henchman with a full belly is more likely to remain loyal and help him drive out intruders. If Matnoor knew that at this very moment the hill troop were walking all over his home, he would not be allowing them to sit around like this. Long-tailed macaques are creatures of habit and routine. Each family knows their territory like the back of their hands. So if they move into a new home, it's a risk. One troop's paradise can be another troop's hell. In their own territory in the forest, the hill troop know exactly where to safely rest and where to look for a meal. But this place is bewildering, and they don't have the energy to try and figure it out. Instead, they head towards their jungle home. But just as they reach the edge of Matnoor's territory, Lokai finally spots something to eat. This fruit is out for the taking, but he can't seem to pick it up. Lokai is confused. Still, The fruit is enough to pause the troop's journey home. Long-tailed macaques are very curious creatures, willing to try anything once. Like drinking rain droplets from the roof of a car. Engrossed in this new way of quenching their thirst, they're unaware that they are being followed. Arav watches his old troop from afar. If Lokai sees him, he'll most likely attack. A fallen alpha usually retreats to live his days out alone. But Arav is not moving on. It's rare, but some disposed alphas have been known to reclaim their troop. Especially if the new alpha is out of his depth, like Lokai is. He hasn't noticed Arav. He's too caught up with trying to work out if he can feed his hungry troop here. He sends his family to scout for more accessible food. A few of the teenagers find an open truck. The Hill Troop youngsters have probably never encountered objects like this before. It's difficult to work out what is edible. Bingo. After a rough morning, the Hill Troop think their luck is changing. Rice tastes delicious, and it quickly fills their bellies. But human food is bad news. It will soon upset their digestive system. Worse, it will change their natural behavior. Long-tailed macaques instinctively keep their distance from people. But if they figure out they can grab an easy meal, they can become bold and aggressive. Upsetting the delicate balance between us and them. Luckily, a bit of education goes a long way, and the people that live in the street troops' territory have learned to keep their food out of sight. But mistakes do occasionally happen. Lokai and the Hill Troop just happened to cross paths with a visitor who didn't know how to behave around a hungry family of monkeys. And now that the Hill Troop have filled their bellies, they're more open to sticking around. They spread out to explore Matnoor's home more thoroughly. Within a few hours, the family discover plenty of nourishing food to sample. Plants from all over the world flourish in the gardens that surround Matnoor's streets. They taste different to the vegetation and fruits that the hill troop are used to eating in their jungle. If they stick to this type of fare and leave human food out of their diet, they'll thrive in the street troops' home. It looks like Lokai made the right decision to bring his family here, after all. Deeper in the city, the street troop soak up their new home away from home. Coming here is like going on holiday for them. Breakfast is as many bananas as you can eat. Followed by a siesta. Or for the kids, a visit to the playground. Young macaques learn a lot from this rough and tumble. It helps them test their strength and hone their acrobatic moves. Crucial skills for a young street troop member to master. Moving around on the edge of the city can sometimes be a bit of a balancing act. But if they can get the hang of navigating through the urban world, the payoff can be delicious. The bigger two-legged primates that call this area home aren't used to having the street troop around. They don't realize how resourceful Matnoor's family are. The teenagers don't have any success breaking in here. But an unlocked bin nearby has some delicious treats. Out on the streets, there's even more rubbish to pick through. Matnoor is in his element. This is why he loves coming here, to indulge his sweet tooth. His family copy their leader and stuff themselves with human food. To satisfy their cravings, they grow bolder. One of Matnoor's henchmen steals a whole jar of cookies from a front yard. It ends up in the hands of one of the highest-ranked females, the same one Sara was earlier trying to avoid. Now, against her natural instincts, Sara heads straight for her. By being this close, Sara risks Max being kidnapped. But the smell of sugar overpowers her usual careful behavior. Luckily for Max, the high-status female alters her natural behavior too. All her focus is on the cookies. By mid-morning, most of the troop find somewhere high up to nap. Sara now gets to pick through the scraps. Distracted, she doesn't notice the high-ranked female watching her. She keeps a careful hold of Max. But then, intent on fallen crumbs, she forgets about him. He's too young to know that it's dangerous to leave Mum's side. He falls into the clutches of the high-ranked female, and she runs away with him. Sandwiched between two of the Sisterhood females, Sara desperately tries to pull Max away. But the kidnapper won't let go. Thirsty Max tries to suckle from her, but she has no milk. Sara must get him back before he becomes dehydrated. The Sisterhood females don't care if he dies. Sara's only chance of saving her baby is to stay close and hope that the kidnapper drops her guard so Sara can rescue him. For Lokai and the Hill Troop, life couldn't be better. They've settled into Matnoor's home and have quickly got used to all the new sights and sounds that come with living near the streets. Even the somewhat strange foot traffic doesn't faze them. The Hill Troop have even acquired a small but dedicated fan club. For the youngsters in the family, living here is very exciting. There's a whole new world for a young, curious mind to explore. This is the first time the kids have encountered an African palm tree. And they can't resist investigating it more thoroughly. But they must be very careful. It's covered in large thorns. It takes precision and a bit of luck to get to the top without impaling a hand or a foot. Lokai joins them After all, he is the alpha and isn't afraid of a few barbs. For those brave enough to navigate the spikes, there's a reward at the top. Oily fruits high in fat that taste delicious. Inspired by the kids, the females join in on the feast. Up until now, they've been a little more cautious than the youngsters about trying new things. It's harder for an old monkey to learn new tricks. After all, there's been a lot of change for the Hill Troop members in the last few weeks. And while most have adapted well, Judith hasn't. She spends most of her time alone. As the oldest female in the troop, she seems to be struggling to fit in here. Judith has seen several alphas rule over the Hill Troop in her lifetime. But none have so drastically changed the family's life like Loci has. All the upheaval appears to motivate Judith to leave the safety of the group. Arav watches from afar as she moves away from her family. This is his chance to get close to one of his old allies. Judith doesn't seem alarmed by Arav's sudden appearance. She leads him further away from the rest of the family. They're now just over 400 meters from the main group. It's rare for a female to stop and spend time with a fallen alpha. Arav is no longer her leader, so there's nothing to be gained by being with him. But Judith once had a very close bond with Arav. He was her alpha for 4 years. It's clear their connection is still strong. Grooming him now when he's at his lowest appears to be her way of showing him that she still cares. The relationships that form between individual long-tailed macaques are complex, especially amongst the females, who are born into a set hierarchy. In a large family like the street troop, the high-ranked ladies tend to stick together. But they must also live side by side with the rest of the females in the troop. And their behavior towards them doesn't always go as expected. The Sisterhood could easily have held on to Max, letting him perish. But for some reason, they let Sara take him back. Sara seems relieved. And although Max looks tired and thirsty, now that he's back with Mum, he can regain his strength. But Sara has a new problem. For the first time in recent memory, the street troop are hungry. The bigger primates here caught on to the new presence of macaques in their neighborhood and have monkey-proofed their world. From high up, Matnoor takes stock of this sudden turn of events. He was enjoying the food around here, but he can't allow his troop to go hungry. The henchmen, especially, must be kept well-fed to ensure they stay loyal. Matnoor needs to make a fast decision. Either lead his troop home or push further into the city in search of more human food. He chooses the second option. An hour later, and with Matnoor in the lead, the street troop arrive into a new part of the city. Matnoor confidently guides them forward and up. He knows it's best to get up high, away from the busy road, where they can use the overhead shelter as a monkey highway to spread out and search for food. But it soon becomes clear that there is nothing edible up here. Matnoor, usually so self-assured, seems at a bit of a loss. He knows he must find food for his troop. It's safer to keep his family up high. But perhaps they'll have to head down to street level. One of his henchmen goes first. Being in an unfamiliar place amongst the traffic is a big risk. But down here, the henchman does find something to eat. The rest of the family watch on, hungry. There's not enough for them to join in. The henchmen do not look happy. Being starved is not what they signed up for. They take out their frustration on other members of the troop. As henchmen, they're trained to fight Matnoor's enemies. They're not meant to hurt each other. The troop are on the edge of a mutiny. Matnoor calls for the henchmen and the rest of the family to regroup. A good leader knows when he has been beaten. If Matnoor doesn't provide food, the troop won't follow him. He's out of options. He gives up on the city and heads for home. Of course, the hill troop have no idea that Matnoor is on his way back. They're all still blissfully enjoying the street troop's territory. Everyone is relaxed, except for Lokai. He has a new problem to deal with. Judith has just arrived back, and she's brought someone with her. Arav. As Alpha, Lokai won't allow any male into his troop who could challenge his position. And he's prepared to fight to hold on to the top spot. As they approach each other, Arav and Lokai size one another up. Lokai portrays an air of confidence, and Arav casts his eyes downward. A clear message that he doesn't want to challenge Lokai. Instead, Arav appears to be angling to rejoin the troop. Long-tailed macaques are social animals. They're happiest when part of a family. It's rare for a new alpha to allow an old one to return into the troop. But Lokai doesn't seem to see Arav as a threat anymore. It's simply not worth fighting him. Arav can stay. Arav is greeted by his own kids, although they seem a little confused as to who he is. After all, he's a shadow of the strong alpha he once was. But Arav appears content with his new position within the family. Arav brings up the rear of the group as they head down Matnoor's streets. Lokai is at the front, and the females follow him. It's clear where their loyalties now lie. If Arav wants to stay in the troop, he must always behave submissively like this. But despite his downfall, it doesn't take long for old Arav to perk up. After weeks of isolation, time with his kids is exactly what he needs. Lokai doesn't seem fussed by their games. Perhaps a sign of his confidence as a leader. None of these males are a threat to him. Let them enjoy their playtime. Besides, Lokai is busy getting to know the females. As alpha, he gets to father most of the babies. It's one of the main perks of the top job. In the cool of the morning, Matnoor prepares to lead his family home. But first, the whole troop need to come down to street level. Sara, with Max on board, rushes to keep up. The streets around here are chaotic. Anyone left behind will struggle to navigate through on their own. The street troop are cut off from their home territory by a busy 8-lane highway. But luckily, the family have a plan. A pedestrian bridge for the humans spans the road, and the street troop know how to use it. Escorted by a couple of henchmen, the Sisterhood and their kids head off first. With no trees up here, it takes nerve to make this journey. There's nowhere to hide. A few of the teenagers are a little reckless. If they fell from here, it's unlikely they would survive. Sara, with Max firmly clasped to her chest, carefully makes the trip. Slow and steady is her plan. Over half the troop are already safely across. Sara's nearly there too. Matnoor's family cleverly use the steps to descend, just like the bigger primates do. In a matter of minutes, all 34 members of the street troop have made it safely home. Matnoor pauses on the edge of his territory. It feels different. There's a scent in the air, the smell of other monkeys. Long-tailed macaques are extremely territorial. The hill troop are trespassing by being here. Just when everything was going so well for Lokai, Matnoor is back.